Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Snam's 2014 third quarter results presentation. Today's agenda will be structured in two parts. First, I will start by outlining the main highlights of the 9 months and some recent developments. Antonio will then focus on the financial results for the first 9 months in more detail. At the end of the presentation, we will be pleased to answer any questions you may have. Let me begin with the main highlights from the first 9 months, as well as giving you an update on the business. For the first 9 months of 2014, I'm pleased to report a solid set of results consistent with our track record of delivery and in spite of a tough environment. Snam's sound operating performance over the period is reflected by the 2,648 million euro of revenues and the 2,111 million euro of EBITDA, both up around 1% versus the same period of 2013. The increase in consolidated EBITDA was achieved due to the growth in regulated revenues across all our businesses and our continued focus on the control of operating costs. EBIT reached 1,528 million euro, up 0.8% versus the same period of 2013, supported by the solid contribution of all our activities. This is a remarkable result considering that 2014 is the first year of the 4th regulatory period for transmission, regasification and distribution business. Leveraging the solid operating profit, the significant increase of 28% in net profit is also the combined result of lower interest expenses during the period, the higher contribution from our associates, the reduction of the tax rate. Turning to CapEx, in the first 9 months of 2014, we executed 856 million euro of investment, up 10.5% versus the same period of last year. Around 75% of the consolidated CapEx receive a remuneration higher than the base return. The level of CapEx achieved in the first 9 months give us confidence to confirm the full year guidance of 1.3 billion euro of spending. The cash flow from operation of 1.1 billion euro fully financed the overall CapEx, generating a positive free cash flow of 212 million euro. This underlines the soundness of our growth strategy and our commitment to maintaining a solid and efficient capital structure. As of the end of September 2014, Snam's net debt was around 13.7 billion euro. During our last strategy presentation, we outlined the main goals of Snam International strategy in detail. To summarize, they are optimization of returns from our existing asset base by using the investment optionality that it provides us, the coordination of CapEx and commercial activities in the context of our cooperation with Fluxys in the North-South corridor, with the goal of providing integrated management of the asset. Focus on completing our presence in the East-West gas corridor. The agreement with Cassa Depositi e Prestiti for the acquisition of 89.2% of TAG perfectly fits with the Snam development strategy abroad and further strengthen the company's leading role amongst infrastructure operators in Europe. The TAG pipeline, also due to its potential use in reverse flow towards Central Europe market, is a strategic asset for the development of the European East-West energy corridor in the broader context of the increasing integration of continental energy networks. TAG has an overall length of about 1,140 kilometers and its operations are entirely subject to Austrian regulation. The current regulatory period will last until the end of 2016. Annual revenues largely derive from long-term ship-or-pay contracts expiring in 2022, which ensures a high level of cash flow visibility. In more detail, the deal with the CDP involves the acquisition by Snam of 84.47% share stake corresponding to 89.22% of economic rights, which is presently held by CDP Gas, a fully owned subsidiary of CDP. Gas Connect Austria will hold the remaining 15.33% of the share capital and 10.78% of the economic rights. The total consideration for the stake is equal to 505 million euro, which will be paid with a share capital increase fully reserved to CDP Gas. The deadline for the closing of the transaction is set for March 2015, but we are working hard in order to complete the deal by year-end. This is the purpose Snam Extraordinary Shareholders Meeting is convened on next December 10th for the approval of the share capital increase. The share capital increase allows Snam to strengthen its capital structure, increase its financial flexibility, and preserve its profitability. In this respect, we expect the deal to be EPS accretive starting from the first year. The contribution of TAG will be consolidated at equity level as the corporate governance rules determine joint control between Snam and the local Austria partner, Gas Connect Austria. Before concluding my presentation, let me now provide you with a quick overview of gas demand in Italy, focusing on weather-adjusted data, which better represent the overall trend, considering the unusual mild weather condition experienced during last winter. In the first 9 months of 2014, gas consumption totaled 47.1 BCM, down 4.4% versus the same period of last year. The decrease was mainly due to the 14.8% reduction in gas consumption in the thermoelectric sector, driven by a reduction of 3% in electricity demand, down 7.6 terawatt-hour, mainly due to the negative trends in the macroeconomic environment. The 10% increase in hydroelectric productions, up 4.4 terawatt-hour, due to the higher level of rainfall. The increase in electricity production from renewable sources, mainly solar, up 1.8 terawatt-hour, as well as the 3% increase in the electricity import, approximately 1 terawatt-hour. These negative elements were only partially offset by a lower use of coal and oil products in the thermoelectric production. Gas demand in the industrial sector decreased by approximately 1% on a like-for-like basis as a consequence of the decline trend in industrial production in Italy throughout the period. Gas consumption in the residential sector decreased by approximately 17.5%, or 3.7 BCM. This result was mainly due to the milder weather conditions last winter compared to the same period of 2013. Adjusted for the weather effect, consumption level in the sector were almost in line with the same period of last year. Finally, gas injected into the network for the first 9 months of 2014 was down by 6.2%. The decrease was driven by the reductions in gas demand, which was partially offset by the positive change in storage flow. That's all from me. I will now hand you over to Antonio, who will discuss our consolidated results for the first 9 months in more detail.
Thank you, Carlo, and good afternoon, everyone. Looking at the consolidated income statement of the first 9 months 2014, EBIT amounted to 1,528 million euro, up 0.8%, a non-negligible increase if we consider that 2014 is the first year of the new regulatory period for transport, distribution, and regasification activities. Moreover, net profit increased by around 28% to 863 million, benefiting from the significant reduction in our average cost of debt, reflecting the debt optimization measures carried out so far, the increase in income from associates, driven by the positive contribution of TAGF and the non-recurring positive item related to the equity interest in AS Torino, the reduction of the tax rate mainly related to the revenue tax. Starting from July the 1st, AS Torino, the gas distribution company operating in Turin, is consolidated in our accounts as a part of the distribution business segment. Total revenues of the first 9 months 2014 amounted to 2,648 million euros, showing an increase of 15 million. Regulated revenues, net of pass-through components, increased by 20 million, up 0.8%, compared to the same period in 2013, reflecting the following contributions by business segment. Transport revenues marked an increase of 10 million. The positive contribution from the investment carried out in 2012, equal to 64 million, was partially balanced by the tariff adjustment of 45 million and the effect of the decrease of gas injected into the network of around 9 million. Distribution revenues grew by 6 million, mainly reflecting the slight reduction in regulated revenues following the new regulatory period, offset by the contribution of the consolidation of AS Torino from July the 1st, equal to around 17 million euro. Storage revenues increased by 7 million, mainly due to the contribution of investment carried out in 2012. The decrease in pass-through revenues was mainly due to the overall gas transport system balancing service. Other revenues amounted to 45 million, an increase of 15 compared to the same period in 2013. Moving to operating expenses, total cost of 537 million registered a decrease of 13 million, mainly related to variable costs and pass-through elements. Controllable fixed cost of the first 9 months 2014 amounted to 348 million, an increase limited to 12 million euro compared with the same period in 2013. This confirms our attention to cost control, even considering the incremental cost related to AS Torino of around 4 million. Variable costs reduced by 10 million, both in the distribution and transport businesses, while the decrease in pass-through cost was mainly due to the overall gas transport system balancing services. Non-regulated costs amounting to 19 million euro decreased by 6 million, mainly in the distribution business. Moving to the cost breakdown by business, net of pass-through cost, we can highlight a growth of 13 million in the transport business, mainly related to risk fund provision, and a reduction of 9 million in the distribution businesses. Consolidated EBIT amounted to 1,528 million euro, with an increase of 12 million, up 0.8%, which was the result of the increase in regulated revenues of 20 million, and the other positive effects of around 20 million, mainly reflecting the reduction in variable costs and the positive contribution from non-regulated activities, partially offset by the already commented increase in controllable fixed cost of 12 million, and decrease in depreciation and amortization of 16 million, mainly due to the new assets starting into operation. In terms of business segment, let me underline the contribution of storage business that registered an EBIT growth of 24 million, up 10%, compared to the same period in 2013. For the transport and the distribution businesses, the operating margins are substantially in line with the previous year, a remarkable result considering that 2014 is the first year of the new regulatory period. Concluding the review of the group's income statement, net profit for the period was 863 million, up 28%. In addition to the EBIT increase, net profit growth was supported by, firstly, the decrease in interest expenses of 62 million euro, mainly due to the lower average cost of debt, down around 50 basis points to 3.3%, that benefited from the significant debt optimization measures carried out so far, partially offset by the higher average outstanding debt and some upfront fees accounted last year following the repayment in advance of a term loan financing subscribed in 2012. Secondly, the increase in net income from associates of 91 million due to the higher contribution of TAGF for about 50 million, which, as you know, last year was negatively affected by a tax burden related to the acquisition, and a 51 million euro one-off positive item resulting from the restatement of AS Torino equity interest at its fair value following the acquisition of the residual stake in the company. AS Torino is 100% owned by Italgas starting from July the 1st. Thirdly, the reduction of the tax rate to around 36%, mainly due to the decrease of the Robin Hood tax to 6.5%. Please note that this level of tax rate is influenced by the non-recurring positive items related to AS Torino, which is fiscal neutral. Therefore, we can confirm the expected tax rate of around 37-38% for the full year. Now, let me give you the update of the progresses achieved on our debt structure. The first 9 months of the year have been characterized by a further access to the capital market via public issuance and private placements, for a total amount of 1.25 billion euro as at the end of September 2014. In addition, at the same date, in order to extend the maturity and reduce the cost of the financing, Snam performed bilateral and pool banking facilities renegotiation for an amount of debt of around 3.6 billion and finalized the disintermediation of certain European Investment Bank financings for about 300 million euro. These factors made it possible to achieve an average cost of debt of about 3.3% in the first 9 months of 2014, which paves the way to reach the level of 3.2% for the full year 2014. Let's now move to the cash flow. In the first 9 months of 2014, the group generated an operating cash flow of 1,095 million euro, fully financing net investments of 883 million, and resulting in a positive free cash flow of 212 million. After the payment of the 2013 dividend balance and the consolidation of AS net debt for around 115 million euro, the increase in net debt at the end of the period was equal to 408 million euro. Looking at the change in working capital, the cash absorption of 243 million was related to around 50% to the payment of the non-structural trade payables accounted at the year-end 2013, while the remaining part was due to the billing seasonality that we expect to be absorbed, therefore not impacting the change in working capital forecasted at the end of the year. Finally, turning to the balance sheet, fixed assets increased by 443 million versus year-end 2013. This was mainly due to the new investment of 856 million, the reduction of capex payable of 67 million, and was partially offset by the asset depreciation of 583 million and subsidies of around 51 million. As regards investments of the period, 445 million are related to the transport and regasification businesses, around 52% of the total. 232 million refers to distribution activity, and 175 million to storage. Around 75% of the consolidated capex receives a remuneration higher than the base return, As usual, further details on the CapEx are provided in the annex of the presentation. Total net financial debt amounted to 13,734 million euro, up 408 million euro compared to the year-end 2013. The level of 13.7 billion euro of debt also represents our best expectation at the year-end 2014, without any further M&A effects, thanks to the measures we plan for controlling the change in working capital in the last quarter. Thank you very much for your attention. We are now pleased to answer any question you may have.
Thank you very much. If you would like to ask a question, please press the star or asterisk key, followed by the digit 1 on your telephone. Please ensure that the mute function on your telephone is switched off to allow your signal to reach our equipment. Once again, please press star 1 to ask a question. We'll take the first question from Alberto Gandolfi from UBS. Please go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. It's Alberto Gandolfi from UBS. I have 3 questions on my side. Thanks for taking the time. The first one is a bit bigger picture on what's been happening between Russia and Ukraine. I know this morning they signed an agreement to provide gas, but we have seen some of the latest documents from the European Union talking about more emphasis on security of supply. Now, your strategy of expanding and positioning yourself in Europe and being the key operator in Italy comes quite handy. So it's a very long-term question, but on a 5 to 10 year view, on your best assessment, what would be the opportunities you can develop looking at these percentages of targets for interconnections within Europe, even though they're not binding, or what's going on behind the scenes? How can you drive the process to have more CapEx effectively? A second question is, can you give us the latest in terms of when it comes to your discussions with the regulator in terms of the mark-to-market of the Italian sovereign yield? Besides what was written in the storage draft, can you tell us where do we stand on the possibility of also marking-to-market inflation? And the third question is, under what circumstance, so if there's no inflation update, how would you think about your dividend policy? Thank you.
Thank you, Alberto. Comment for the crisis Russia-Ukraine. It's positive that Russia and Ukraine will reach an agreement. Anyway, we have considered the possibility of maintain the security of supply through the diversification of the sources we have in Italy. In particular, up to now, neither the European nor the Italian gas market have suffered from any gas supply interruption from Ukraine. The stress test we carried out not only in Italy but at European level, the results are that even in the harshest condition, the effect of the lack of supply could be managed. And so I don't see a risk in this respect. But I think it's important the evaluation, the medium long-term evaluation of the possibility of geopolitical crisis for the European supply. In this respect, we consider that our future control with the agreement with Fluxys of the corridor north-south and east-west give us the possibility to manage in the best condition the reduction of the supply risk, improving the flexibility and the interconnection to the different European countries for South of Europe and Central Europe, but not only north-south, but the interconnection with the reverse flow capability with the eastern country, today linked to the TAG pipeline. I think it's not easy today to finalize or to, let me say, set in terms of investment the possibility of new expansion. But I think that with the existing network anyway, managing the trading facility, managing the flow at a unique level in the two corridors, we can resolve part of let me say, the positive result of the interconnection to Europe. In Europe today anyway, we have an overcapacity of gas, and the possibility to match together the transmission system and the storage system give us the possibility in the medium long terms to create the condition of the security of supply. Our program, which we are discussing today, is the possibility to match the storage services with the transmission services, not only in Italy but at European level. I think is the only possibility to guarantee a security of supply during the winter period. And in this case, in this respect, it's clear that the role of the TSO will be very not only very important, but will be give the possibility to the TSO to increase the capability of management the network, consequently to increase the possibility of new revenue with the new services, at the same time to decrease the logistic cost in the transmission and storage system. And the logistic costs are the main aspect we have to manage and to decrease to give the possibility to the shipper to increase the trading system at European level. Only to say that I consider the crisis Russia-Ukraine not, let me say, without impact in the next winter period, but is a point of attention for all the governments in Europe, which give the possibility to increase the role of the TSO in terms of investment, services, and guarantee of the security of supply. The second question was the regulatory.
On the second question, Alberto, I think that I believe that the transparency of our regulatory framework permit you to assess all the potential impact of the current macroeconomic scenario and therefore our revenues. You know that in valuation terms, the impact is not to be considered so relevant, given that our regulatory framework is designed to capture in the medium term the evolution of the financial scenario. What we have to manage are the impact in the shorter term, and on that aspect, what we can do is to maintain, what we can do for protecting our revenues, our margins, is to focus our financial strategy in order to maintain the most appropriate alignment between the resetting of our cost of debt and the frequency of the revision of the fleet, so the duration of our debt. Having said that, let me underline once again that our regulation is based on a return on asset real, so net of inflation, which with the inflation that is impacting on the reevaluation of the evolution of our RAB. On that aspect, is important again to take into account the consultation paper for storage, which confirm the attention that the authority pays on the matter of the inflation and the a correlation between treasury bonds and inflation. So confirms once again that the attitude seems to be to provide fair condition for the settlement of the real term of return.
We are now taking a question from Pablo Quadrato from HSBC.
Hi, good afternoon. Good afternoon to everyone. Just 3 quick questions, please. The first one is on the TAG acquisition. Clearly, we need to wait to see the final reference of the preferential right issue. You mentioned during the presentation that it's going to be accretive from day one for Snam. I was wondering whether you can give a little bit more color on the level of accretion. Are you talking or expecting to have a low single-digit EPS impact in terms of accretion, or more mid-single-digit? Just if you can more or less give more information about your expectations. Second question is whether you can provide an update on how is going on the Italgas investigation, if you have any kind of news on that front. And the third one, I think yesterday the CEO of Enel made some comments on the Galsi project, basically ruling out or believing that potentially the project is going to be delayed again, or even it's not going to happen. I know that clearly this is not included in the current capex plan, but whether you can share with us which is your views about the project, and if you still think that is going to happen. Thank you.
Pablo, few elements in order to give, as you said, some more color on TAG. I would start from the return we expect from the acquisition. It is clear that we need to wait for the closing, and it is for us necessary to understand the number of shares, to understand the impact on the purchase price allocation. And another important aspect is the restatement from the local accounting principle, which are today used by the company, with the target company, and the IFRS. Having said that, few elements. First of all, in terms of return, also in this acquisition, we have used the threshold that we use at other times. We have a target return on our investment which must be at least in the low double-digit level. More important is the payback of the investment, because what we have considered in setting the price is that in terms of cash recovered, the cash payback, we expect to have the price to be paid recovered more than 9% recovered within 2023. So 90%, sorry, 90. Therefore, what we have in mind is a return which is in line with our expectation, and a payback which would permit us to recover the investment within the length of the current long ship-or-pay contracts. The other important point is the earning per share, the impact. Again, it is difficult for us to give you a final number before having all the final result on the table in terms of number of shares, in terms of any adjustment in cash. But what we can say is that the estimation made by the different brokers, which talk about 2-3% of accretion, are something that we consider reasonable.
Okay, Pablo, I give you an update of the Italgas situations. You know, the investigation is ongoing, and we've continued our cooperation with the Court of Palermo. But the news is that at the start of October, the Court of Palermo issued a further measure that set out the following, which is very important. First, the absolute and temporary and short-term nature of the preventive measure, the perimeter of the judicial administration, and state that no evidence has come to light that would prevent the consolidation of Italgas on a going concern basis, both operationally and financially. Furthermore, the measure confirmed that Italgas must be run by the court-appointed administrators in accordance with the Snam strategic plan and budget, and all the relevant Snam group procedures. As a result, we can continue to consolidate Italgas, and we made aware Consob of this. Therefore, the group's consolidated cash flow will be unaffected by the investigation. For the third question, Galsi, I said a lot of time that the investment decision of Galsi was 2 years ago not so easy, considering the gas demand evolution and considering the value, the total amount of investment. And today, I think it's very critical to take an investment decision to start with Galsi. You know that we have not considered in our plan not only, let me say, the participation in Galsi, but we have not considered the investment to link the Galsi project to the national and regional network. So we will wait the final decision, but I think that today we don't expect final decision in the coming years will be taken by Galsi.
The next question comes from Javier Suarez from Mediobanca. Please go ahead, please.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Javier at Mediobanca. I just have 3 questions on my side. The first one is on the cost of debt. The CFO has mentioned a target of 3.2%. Just a clarification of this, 3.2% is by the end of 2014, and if so, which is your expectation on the cost of debt by the end of 2015? The second question is on related to the previous question on the possible effect that the TAP pipeline, Galsi or new regasification plants may have on your business plan. Could you kindly update us on how do you see that these further strengthening of the European gas network through Italy may affect or not your business plan? We have seen Enagas taking the decision to participate on the TAP project. We have seen yesterday Starace looking or sounding quite critical with Galsi, and I just guess that there is a general interest for the opening of regasification plants in Europe. How do you see the scenario? How do you see that this may affect your business plan in the next years to come? And the third question is on Italgas. Can you clarify if you intend or not to participate in the next gas auctions and the effect that this may have for Italgas? Many thanks.
Starting from the first question, the cost of debt, the 3.2% I mentioned before is the average cost of our debt for the full year 2014. For next year, we are used to give the market guidance in the strategy presentation. Anyway, it is clear that we are confident to be in a position to give you a guidance at that time, so I'm talking about March, but anyway, in reduction, cost of debt in reduction with respect to the one we will account for 2014.
For the second question, first of all, I remind you that in our business plan for the investment, we consider today a new supply from south of Italy of 8 BCM. And you remember I said that 8 BCM could come from TAP or new LNG. Today, I think there is a strong commitment by the government to speed the authorization of TAP. TAP is a diversification, new diversification of the sources. There is a strong commitment by the shareholder of TAP to bring gas by 2020, and we expect the final authorization to plan our investment. Our investment for TAP will be the Adriatic connection, the Adriatic Sea. This is the reason why in our CapEx plan today, in the 4-year CapEx plan, we don't have spending for the Adriatic Sea, but it's beyond the CapEx plan to follow the deadline of TAP, which is 2019-2020. For the participation of some new shareholders, there is Enagás, there is Fluxys. Frankly speaking, is no. I usually not comment the decision of the shareholder or the participation, but I said a lot of time that we are focused on developing investment in the regulated business at European level to reinforce the capability of Italian network and reinforce the interconnection with Europe. We don't have today completely the visibility of the evolution of shareholder structure of TAP. There is the reason why we, in terms of risk profile, we consider that is not in line with our risk profile, the risk profile of Snam today. But the evolution could give us some possibility to evaluate in the future the participation. But today there is no, let me say, the conditions to evaluate a new investment as a shareholder in TAP. I remind you that the investment we are developing, the investment set in our CapEx plan, are namely the investment set not only in our CapEx plan and in the government CapEx plan, but are investment set in the technical document of the European Committee. So give us, let me say, a strong commitment in terms of strategic aspect of our investment. Today, I agree that TAP will be very strategic new source of gas, but we have to understand the evolution in terms of capability to bring the 8 BCM of gas, the evolution of the rules, the criteria set in the regulated business, not only in Italy, but in Greece and outside Italy, to understand the profile, the risk profile of TAP in line with our present conditions. For Italgas, it's clear. We are. I said a lot of time that we have monitored all the new ATM, the new geographical distribution area, and so we know very well today possibility in bidding for the new area. We are waiting, the municipality of the consortium of the municipality have to prepare the bid for tender. We are monitoring the situation, and we will consider the possibility of bidding where we are sure to maintain the profitability we have today. The return in terms of EBIT to RAB is around 9%. Our intention is to bid. That means increase the RAB in the condition, in the geographical area where we can provide the cost synergy, and we can, let me say, transfer our capability to maintain low cost exercise of the network.
Thank you.
We now have a question from Maurice Choi from RBC. Please go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. Just 3 questions from me. The first 2 will be on international, and the third one will be on debt. The first question is about your formation of the JV with Fluxys. Can I just get an update on, firstly, obviously the timing, and whether or not you see any need for a cash exchange between the 2 parties? The second question is about, again, on the international. Could you just share with us, I guess, the vision of where this business is going? What share of earnings comes from international today, and how big do you think this can go by the end of the decade? And the last question is more about the mix between fixed and floating debt. Obviously, currently, right now, as of the 9 months, you've got 70% fixed, 30% floating. So maybe you could just share with us whether or not you think this is a optimal mix, or do you expect this to change a lot in the next 12 months? Thank you.
Thank you. The situation we are managing with the Fluxys, after the signing of the MOU in end of March, Snam and Fluxys have agreed to assess and evaluate the setup of jointly controlled company for the integrated management of their respective assets across Europe, outside Belgian and Italian domestic market. The joint company under consideration would combine Fluxys and Snam international assets located in the corridor south, north, and east-west, and would, in my opinion, would play a key role as a facilitator of the creation of deeper market flexibility and liquidity through an enhanced interconnection of the European gas network and markets, fully in line with the goals of the third European directive. We are working, we are in the due diligence process. We estimate to complete the agreement in the first month of 2015. So I can give you some update with the strategic presentation in March. But we are respecting the program we had 1 year ago in setting the new holding company.
In relation to the other 2 questions, the first one is related to the contribution of our profits margins coming from abroad. I would limit the answer to the present year. In 2014, what we can expect is a contribution of an amount between 35 to 40 million euros. I'm talking about the net income from associates coming from the interconnector and TIGF. Starting from 2015, we expect also to consider, together with this contribution, the one coming from TAG. In relation to the financial strategy, and in particular the exposure to interest rates, to the interest rates evolution, from the beginning, from when we set the financial structure of the company in 2012, after the refinancing with DNI, we mentioned a target structure of around 60-70% of fixed rate, and the residual part of floating rates. 60% to 70% can differ in relation to the opportunistic ways and in relation to the to the timing, approaching, let me say that approaching the new reset of tariff that we expect starting from the beginning of 2016, it could be convenient for the company to reduce our duration and therefore to increase a bit the floating rate position, so moving towards 60 instead of 70%.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
The next question comes from Cosma Panzacchi from Bernstein. Please go ahead.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you for taking my call. I'm Cosma Panzacchi from Sanford Bernstein. I have a couple of questions. Like the first one is on the international strategy, and the second one is mostly on distribution. So on the international strategy in particular, if we look again at the conclusions of the European Council, it appears to me that there's no precise target for gas interconnection, and that the European Council has just repeated general objectives that were already there. So do you think that Europe will now allocate new resources for the development of cross-country gas infrastructures on top of the existing PCI program? And if yes, do you have any idea of when they will disclose it? Will it be part of the new plan of the Juncker Commission, maybe? And secondly, one of the things that we have seen holding back international infrastructure has been local oppositions by local communities. We have seen it, for example, we are seeing it now in Puglia for TAP. We have seen it in Abruzzo for your own transportation business. So I was wondering if you think that this could change in the future and why, and if you think that at regulatory level there will be something to help out building this needed infrastructure. On distribution, my questions would be, first of all, if you can update us on the status of the smart meters implementation in Italy, and in particular, starting to see any operational benefits from the rollout. And second, this week we have seen the decision of the TAR Tribunal of Lombardy on some gas distributors, for example, A2A Reti Gas, regarding the tariff of 2013. And I was wondering if this type of decision might actually positively affect Snam, and if yes, by which amount? Thank you again.
Thank you. The comment for the international strategy, I first of all, in the European directive was defined the roles of ENSOG in defining the total investment, strategic investment we need in Europe for the interconnection. And today, at technical body at European Committee, there are very clear. There are all the investment we need to guarantee the security of supply through the interconnection. I think is under analysis, under evaluation by the technical body of the European Committee. I imagine that some more visibility of the strategic investment will be elaborated in the futures. Anyway, we have the experience for TIGF in France, Fluxys have the experience in Germany. Anyway, all the companies, the TSO today are, let me say, pushing by the regulator or by the government in some country to improve the investment interconnection. For example, for TIGF, the regulator approved the business plan with the interconnection from south to Nord hub, let me say. It's a new investment in the business plan of TIGF. We have another investment for improving the connection in Spain in the future business plan, but it's not only the decision of the company, but it's a commitment with a strong extra return set by the regulator. There is, let me say, the consequence could be that the investment will start before a clear decision by the European Commission, because in some country need the development and the increase of interconnection capacity. The same situation we have in Italy. We have some clients who are asking to increase the reverse flow capacity to Switzerland and Germany, which we are doing with Fluxys, is to manage together the interconnection contract to let me say, to set with the authority of the countries, Italy and Germany, the best rules, the best criteria to facilitate the booking capacity by the shipper. So let me say, there is no a deliberate by European committee, but there is a lot of business plan underway for the new vessel. I can say that we don't need subsidies if the regulator will support the strategic investment. And today, what I can say is that not only in Italy, but in France, for example, and in Germany is under discussion, the intention of the regulators is to support the strategic investment. Not only, let me say, for the security of supply, but in some country to create more competition in the price. It's the case of France, anyway. In terms of authorization, you know, it's not the first time that we face the discussion with the local community. You build in the last 3 years, 4 years, 3,000 kilometers of pipeline in Italy. Is usually the discussion with the local community to reach the final authorization. I think is a strategic the position of the TSO and the plan of the TSO. We have the possibility. We started 5 years ago to discuss this point. I said before that the spending, in terms of spending of the Adriatic Sea, is no, let me say, today, but we start in 2018. There is the reason why we have in front of us all the time to discuss some, let me say, some tuning in the right way, some discussion. I don't see, frankly speaking, a risk of stopping completely the investment. It's clear that we have anyway some backup. So we can anyway bring the 8 BCM capacity if in the worst case there is not the possibility to complete the Adriatic Sea with other right away. So there is the reason why I don't think it could be a risk. The second aspect is that if the investment will be strategic as a TAP, I think that the news in the last 2 years is that there is more commitment by the Ministry of Development and the government to support, in any case, the investment. So I think that it's clear that could be some local discussion, but at the end, if the investment will be strategic, there will be the approval directly by the government. For the second question of smart metering, we are investing in the smart metering in Italgas, following the program set and agreed with the regulators. By 2018, we have to complete 80% of the smart metering investment. In the CapEx plan of Italgas, we have in the next 4 years 350 million euro of the smart meter. Is the consequence in terms, first of all, the smart meter today are investment with higher remuneration by the regulator. But anyway, the advantages we can see in the new smart meter are in two aspects we have to consider. First of all, we will have a strong support for the decision in the dispatching gas in the transmission system. So having not only the daily or weekly situation, but having the hourly situation of the gas consumption, we can create more synergy in the dispatching of gas to the compressor station to the dispatching center. And so it is in terms of operating costs are synergy. The second aspect is that when the smart metering will be in place, in my opinion, we are working today in this context, we can create and we can offer new services to our client in terms of shipper or final residential, for example, residential users. Today, there is no distinction for regulated or non-regulated services, but for the smart meter, we are the possibility to offer and to create the new business plan of the new services that we don't have today. For example, the information for the geographical consumption, the local consumption. That means that is a strong help for the shipper in programming, in booking the daily capacity, and is an impact in the economical impact for the shipper. In this case, we are working to create a set of new services to sell this type of services and consequently to maintain, let me say, our revenue, to increase our revenue in this respect. Sorry, there's another question about the distribution, the decision for the TAR for the distribution. The decision was clear. The TAR Lombardia, Regional Court of Lombardia, the decision to partly repeal the delibera which set the tariff in the distribution last year in the determination of WACC. The decision of the TAR, the decision has accepted the filing of distribution industry again the delibera. I think I have no specific comment, but one I think is strategic. The TAR, the additional expression of the TAR has also contested the fact that the so-called Robin tax has not been appropriately taken into consideration in the determination of the remuneration rate. I don't know the reaction of the authority, but anyway, it's an important point, will be an important point of discussion, because it's the first time there will be a judge decision to, let me say, to consider the Robin Hood tax in the different aspect in the distribution tariff in the regulated business, because we don't transfer directly to the final customer, the Robin Hood tax.
Thank you.
The next question comes from Stefano Gamberini from Equita SIM. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, everybody. A few questions, if I may. First of all, regarding the IRAP change in taxation, what is the impact of a lower IRAP in your tax rate from 2015 onwards? And second, regarding the RAB at the end of the year, if there are some changes in the RAB deflators, what is the RAB you expect at the end of the year? Then I would like to understand a little bit more regarding this possible entrance on the shareholder structure of TAP. Is the TAP risk profile in line with your criteria? What I mean is, will you enter in the gas market selling gas to the wholesaler or final clients? I do not understand exactly how you can enter in the TAP shareholder structure without withdraw gas when this will be available. And last thing, regarding AS Torino impact on the third quarter figures, what is the impact on EBIT? And if you can give us a little bit more flavor, why the third quarter results were down compared to the slightly increase in the first and second quarter. Thanks.
Starting from the first question, the tax rate of the company and the expected one for next year. I would start saying that for this year we have to face the following evolution, Stefano. We had a total tax rate last year of around 43%. For in this year, we have to consider at least 4 elements which are contributing our tax rate to be decreased to a level of 37%. The first one is the Robin tax that you perfectly know, which has a value of around 4%. The second one is the reduction of IRAP already decided that has a value of 0.5%. The same level, 0.5%, is the contribution of the application of ACE, which has been possible according to the dividends policy we had in dividends to be distributed from our operating company to the holding. And the last 1% is the reduction, which is the result of a higher contribution to our net result before taxes due to the net income from associates. Net income from associates this year will have a value which we expect to be without the non-recurring item for us around 80 million, so 80 million plus around 50 million, and you know this is substantially neutral from a fiscal point of view. So the 1% of further reduction is due to this higher contribution from net income from associates. For next year, I would prefer not to give you numbers because we are not so sure that this proposal will be the only one having effect on our tax rate. Anyway, just for giving you one number is that our labor cost is around 350 million. IRAP is 0.5%, and so it is easy to understand which could be the effect, the advantage, only if the deductibility of cost of personnel from IRAP will be the only element. I think that it is necessary to wait for understanding better which will be the aggregate effect. For the RAB evolution, I would, as usual, start from the RAB at the end of 2012, which is the one that has been approved for the tariff for 2014, which we consider in the range of 23.7 billion euro. This is composed by 14.8 for the transport, 0.1 for LNG, and for the storage we talk about a level of 3.7 billion. For the distribution we consider a level of 5.1, which you know is still to be finally approved, and it includes includes around 300 million euros of increase coming from the positive effect of the new methodology applied for subsidies that has been decided in the last regulatory framework. For 2013, we have used a deflator of 0.5%, and on the basis of the investment we made, and on this deflator, the RAB we estimate at the end of 2013 is 24 billion. At the end of this year, we estimate a deflator of below 1%, assuming 1.3 billion of capex. The deflator, which is right below 1%, and the RAB pertaining to Torino, which has been consolidated starting from July, which is around 400 million euro. We are talking about a level of 24.8 billion euro. If we consider the value of our affiliates, which today for TAGF, Toscana, and Interconnector are something more than 1 billion. The the value of the asset is close to 26 billion euros. So with a leverage of around 50-53%, also at the end of this year. The contribution of AS Torino to our EBIT expected at the end of the year is around 20 million euros. This is for 6 months. And I don't remember the last question. AS Torino, the contribution of EBIT and?
And it was regarding the TAP risk profile.
Oh, the TAP is the other question. The other question of TAP, to be very clear, there is no intention of Snam today to become shareholder of TAP. What I said is that we have, you know, the joint agreement with Fluxys. Fluxys is a shareholder of TAP. Inside the holding we are building with Fluxys, one of the objectives of the holding is to evaluate all the possibility of strengthen the interconnection with Europe in the regulated business risk. So only if there will be this type of condition, we are ready to evaluate inside with Fluxys in the holding this type of possibility. But there is no, repeat, intention today to, as a Snam to become shareholder of TAP.
There was actually the other curiosity, which is the result of the third quarter, which is lower than the previous quarters of the year. I think that the only item I just want to underline is there is some provisions that in the third quarter we accounted higher than the previous one.
Okay, many thanks.
We are now taking a question from Monica Girardi from Barclays. Please go ahead.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. I have a couple of questions. So the first one goes back to the interim review for transport and distribution activities in 2016. I appreciate the fact that the authority in the second consultation document of Stogit was opening a door to a review of the inflation parameter as well. In case the bleak case scenario happens, i.e. that the inflation parameter is not adjusted, I was wondering what's your flexibility into the capex that, if I'm not wrong, is peaking in 16 and 17, especially given that it's just the interim review, it will be a temporary cut into the allowed return. The second question is related to the guidance of net debt for the full year. If I'm not wrong, Antonio, you said 13.7 billion. Was curious to know if this target was or was not including the acquisition of TAG, and what is the level of working capital that you project for the full year? Thank you.
The level of debt, the guidance of 13.7 billion is including AS Torino, which worth 115 or 110 million, does not include TAG. Neither for the payment of the stake, which will be paid by shares, but also for the shareholder loans that we have to for which we have to substitute the position of the seller. The working capital, yes, sorry. As far as the working capital dynamics, in the first 9 months, we had an absorption of around 250 million euros. We expect to put in place some measures in the 4 quarters in order to manage, let me say, the effect of the working capital evolution, maintaining more or less the same level on a full year basis, and therefore permitting us to reach the 13.7 billion of guidance that I was mentioning, that you were mentioning before.
If I understood the first question, Monica, give me for the transport and distribution. I think it's positive that general approach by the regulator is to consider the market condition in the period, and so I don't think that could be jeopardized without jeopardize the economics or the financial without consider the market condition. Anyway, the impact of the inflation or the deflator in case of investment, I don't think that could change our policy in terms of dividend. Frankly speaking, I don't think that the impact could be so strong to let me say give us some advice of dividend reduction. Anyway, in the capex plan we have demonstrated in the last 2 years and 3 years we have the flexibility to tuning the capex plan take into account the cash flow production without stop or let me say delay our project.
Thank you.
We have a question from Enrico Bartoli from Mainforce. Please go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. I have, first of all, a question going back to the European scenario, and particularly on the connection between Spain and France. There have been, let's say, an acceleration recently in the discussions about this matter due to this Russian situation. It seems that the Spanish government is pushing for increasing the connection there. Could you give your feeling about the discussions on this matter, and if you think that reasonably in the short term you could add some investments for TGF due to the expansion capacity between these two countries. Secondly, I would like to go back to this point about the inflation. Surely you are discussing with the authority about the possibility to introduce the market value inflation for storage. Your discussions are also regarding the possibility to have an adjustment of the automatic update for transport and distribution in 2016, since considering to the current regulation only the risk-free rate is going to be updated. Thank you very much.
The first question, Enrico, is true. Is under discussion the investment to improve the connection from Spain to France. In the business plan, I said before, of TIGF, there is some investment to improve the connection. The deadline is in the business plan starting from 2018, not before, only for one reason, because the investment we are TIGF are developing today is to the bottleneck south of France to north of France. So we have to complete the investment to the bottleneck, the French region, before, let me say, to bring more gas from Spain. This is the reason why in the business plan there are the investment starting from 2018. I think there is the possibility to speed the investment, but the deadline today is starting from 2018. The second question, if I have understood clearly, it's clear that today we cannot, let me say, what the regulator will decide end of 2015 about the inflation. It's not easy. What I can say is that usually the approach of the regulator, independent of the number, is to consider the financial and more the market condition as that time. It's clear that the inflation setting procedure defined in the storage document is a good point to discuss with the regulator the possibility to expand the same approach, to use the same approach in the transmission and the distribution. But clearly, we don't have today discussion in place about this point.
This will conclude the question and answer session. I will now like to turn the call back to Mr. Carlo Malacarne for any additional or closing remarks.
Okay, therefore there are no more questions. Thank you very much for attending the call. If you need any further information, please contact the IR department. Thank you, everybody.